Okay guys, we're gonna go farm and grass, okay? First group just sort of 18, 19s, and the second group proper 19s, okay?
Is there a George Scott way with a horse? Do you have a tried and tested method?
I don't know necessarily if there's a way, but I definitely have worked hard to find an identity, you know, to try and find who I am as a trainer. And I think each trainer definitely has an identity, and I definitely was lost with that for some time. You know, coming to Newmarket and, you know, looking over the fence, you know, George Bowie is my next door neighbour, one of my best mates in the world. Just his star has risen so quickly, and it's so competitive. And, you know, there's times when you feel like you're treading water and then you're trying new things. But now I do think I've got an identity, and, you know, I think it's important with most of these horses, especially if they're not the top horses, to keep them busy. And therefore we keep them fresh and keep them racing plenty.
Do you look at other sports or anything like that in terms of learning things from?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, I love football, and I'm obsessed with like the managers and the way that they, you know, someone like Pep, the way that he continues to just push and drive, and the way he manages people, just fascinated with him. And
yeah.
Obviously Arteta has sort of just basically morphed himself as well, hasn't he? And is having so much success. But yeah, I love sport. I love team sport more than anything. So
I wonder if Pep could manage a string of horses.
He'd certainly have the best staff, wouldn't he? Certainly have the best staff. He is. I mean, the documentary at the moment when the treble, they followed them through that treble year.
Yeah.
But Bowie actually messaged me about 11 o'clock the other night, just saying I'm obsessed with Pep, and you know, it's just, I think just the way that he manages that I was going to say weighing room, dressing room.
Yeah.
You know, I find that fascinating. Yeah, absolutely.
Your first year, I mean, I think you only had 3 runners, didn't you, or 3 or 4?
Yeah.
Three or 4 runners. But after that, your star went like that.
Well, with the benefit of hindsight, obviously, you know, we got off to an absolute flyer, and we were the young kid on the block that everyone wanted to kind of be associated with, and it put us in a position that it was probably a false sense of security for sure. But, you know, it was a wonderful period, and when you're setting off into with a new business and a new team of people and new owners, it felt great. We loved it, and I think it probably came a bit too easy at that point. You know, I probably didn't learn as much as I...
Did it give you a false sense of reality?
Oh yeah, for sure, because honestly, the first 2 years I think were just a dream, you know. But I do look back on that time when I wanted it to rain, it rained. When it didn't want it to rain, it didn't rain. Like, I won every short head, you know. A horse that I thought I couldn't beat was a non-runner. I promise you, just every single time, it just seemed to work. But I didn't know that at the time.
I love it you trainers poke it.
Well, it's a kind of indicator of, you know, it's very soft now. It's nice fresh ground here. God, it is windy today.
It is.
So it's good for the 2-year-olds though, because they're learning. They've got to learn, you know.
Yeah.
It's not an easy process for them to come down the grass like this with the wind blowing across them. They haven't got an older lead horse looking after them. So it's all part of their education.
Happy with that?
Yeah, really, I couldn't be more happy, to be honest. 2-year-olds, I do think it's important that you don't get them tired very often. You know, it's like a kid.
It's a long season.
Yeah, and it's like a child, you know. If he gets tired doing something the whole time, he won't want to do it again. You want to come out and dangle the carrot, let them enjoy their training. I think it's very early on, their mindset changes very quickly when they're young. And if they come out onto the heath and they're getting tired every day, honestly, they're not going to want to do it. So when you start getting jibbers and sweating and all that sort of stuff. Just walk on until they go past you and then turn back around, okay? All right? Got down there good? Yeah. He looks great. He's a happy horse, isn't he? Yeah.
There then comes a period in your life, and I know it's well documented, and no desire to go into the personal reasons of your divorce
Sure.
from your wife, but clearly that was a very difficult moment for you personally and professionally.
When things were going well on with the training, I was also having this amazing life, you know, with Polly as well. So it was like all happening together, which was so exciting. And then obviously we went through a period of time where we started to understand that we weren't going to be together. And thankfully there were no external factors in that whatsoever. And you know, that coincided with a downturn in results here. And you know, again, at the time you're caught up in what's happening in front of you, but you know, I was certainly here in body, but you know, in mind probably not so much, well, certainly not so much, especially in hindsight. And you know, there were a couple of other things more significant than that going on in terms of health, which is not to me, but other people, which were having a really profound effect on me as well. I'm a big believer that training racehorses is just, you spend so much time thinking, and because there are so many day-to-day decisions, minute-to-minute decisions even to be made, if you're worrying about, you know, external factors, you're probably making the first decision that comes into your head, and you're not sort of thinking, well, is this the right decision? You're just like, it's just like you don't have time to think about every detail. So if you're distracted in some other way, then you know, it was definitely leaving less time for me to be focused on what was happening here, I suppose.
And of course, you and Polly share some fabulous children together as well. Did you ever just feel that the children were a leveler for you, or brought you back to where you needed to be?
Yeah, without question. Like being a father to them is by far my favourite thing in life. You know, and you know, fortunately, Polly and I have found a very sensible level where we co-parent together, and living next door to very close to each other. The children come between us, and it's been the best part of my life, you know, the last couple of years as they've grown up, and it's been a perfect leveler as well. They come to the yard a lot, and they absolutely love it. They don't really know whether they're interested in horses or not at the moment, which is fine, but it's very special having young children, isn't it? You know, and despite the circumstances, I'm able to be involved in every single detail of their lives. You know, I just couldn't imagine how tough it is for people that don't get that opportunity because of because of divorce or something. So fortunately, we've put all of our differences aside, and we co-parent, and the children are thriving. I want my children to be proud of me and to enjoy this life, but a successful life in racing, not just scraping along and surviving. Like, I want them to see that we're doing really well. Now, that might not interest them, and that's absolutely fine, but it gives me the motivation at the very least to want to do it. And I couldn't face being a loser, really. And
that really would have bothered you?
Yeah, no, it was killing me. It was eating me up, you know, big time. You're never out of the woods in any sport, and I'm not saying that at all. And I'm not saying that I've conquered anything, because I haven't. But what I have done is get myself out of a position which looked pretty. It was pretty depressing for me and for everyone around me, and a pretty negative swirl. And now I feel like it's a positive swirl and a positive atmosphere in the yard, and the brand is bright again, I think.
And what do the kids think of Dad at the moment? That'll be a simple.
Yeah, no, they're great. You are able to work alongside spending a lot of time with your children. You know, most people who live in London or have a very active job work from 6, 7 in the morning till 6, 7 at night. Like my friends in London, they don't see their children, but at least when I see my children, they're with me at work, engaged in it, and I'm able to give them everything when I'm with them. So they just want your time, don't they? That's all they want.
So originally you were a Shropshire lad, is that right?
Yeah, well, I suppose I always will be a Shropshire lad
Yeah.
at heart.
Farming background?
Farming, dad's a farmer.
Yeah.
Grew up with livestock and horses and long days.
Never thought about following in the family tradition, no?
Never. No. But took the horses from it
Yeah.
and the outdoor lifestyle, but just put in the action.
People talk in all sports that I cover now, mental health is very much at the forefront. Is mental health a big part of training racehorses?
When you're losing constantly, it's really hard. And well, there was a period where I was like, I just don't know if this is going to work. I don't know if I'm going to survive this, because we were down to about 30 horses, and the other trainers' stars were ascending around me. You know, so that I was not the young guy on the block. It was like other guys were coming through, and then they were just bunny hopping me.
How did that make you feel at the time?
Honestly, it's brutal. It's absolutely brutal. You know, not necessarily other people having success, but you failing. You know, we were failing. I was failing. And that's very much an I, not a we, because...
And did you identify what you thought, the reasons that you thought you were failing for?
Well, there's a big pivotal moment in my career that you can plainly see from the statistics, where it just takes basically a sudden upturn. You know, we set out and we got to every sale, and we worked hard, and I got on the phone, and we bought a different type of horse, and we moved into Eve Lodge here, and we put the airflow system to improve the health of the horses, and I had a clear mind. I was past my divorce, and it coincided with having a completely clear mind, and it was a new chapter in my life. And since then, we've got a long way to go, obviously, but we've struck at 17, 18, 19% now for 2.5 years, and I feel that we're getting ourselves back into the conversation again. You know, if a new owner comes into the game, if my name is part of a conversation with a bunch of racing people, it's not going to be instantly dismissed. You know, and if you're in enough of those conversations, I think you start to move forward. I worked for Paul Nicholls my first year. My first ever job in racing was for Paul. I was so green, came out of school, and it was just a completely different world. And Paul has been at the top of national hunt racing for
donkeys.
For a long time. But he is always pushing, innovating, new gallops, trying to get new owners, new horses. Like, that hunger that he possesses is something that I would always admire in him. And I just, you know, you see lots of people in sport, they get to the top and then they often coast, but he's really left an impression. You know, he left an impression on me from those early days of his hunger. There was no hardship in it. It was an amazing year. It was the year that Paul broke all the prize money records, and he had the first 3 in the Gold Cup.
Yeah.
And the first morning, actually, I remember it so clearly. It was late summer, and all the horses had come back in, obviously. So walking along, I just come out of school, loved national hunt racing, obsessed with it, wanted to be a jockey, and there was this kind of slightly sort of older stable girl there called, can't remember her name now, just sort of, you know, one real battle axe, sort of great sort of girl that had sort of been one of his stalwarts forever. And I said, hi there, you know, I'm George. I said, I was riding on, what are you riding? And she said, Denman. And I was just like, whoa, we're in the big time now. Like, just riding out, just come out of school, and like, just Denman, you know, at the time was like the tank. And it was the most famous horse in racing. And I just remember just seeing it was just an amazing sort of moment there. Okay, guys, in you go. Pick your feet out, dry your heads off. All right? He's doing well, isn't he? Yeah, good boy. I hate letting the horses get wet. Not like this is not wet. Yeah. But in the winter, if it's raining, hammering, they'll stay in the ride, they won't get wet. And Henry Cecil, not that I work for Henry or I claim to know any more than anyone else, but I know he hated the horses getting wet. He'd do them up. I mean, Yami, his sort of great man, said they'd be in the pub by 9 o'clock when it was raining. You know, he'd just do them up and leave them in the box. So when I say dry, it's not wet, but I want their heads dry. Yeah. You know, a horse can't get his towel and give his hair, you know, he's got to stand with a wet head. Yeah. So I want their heads dry and I want their heels dry, ideally. Okay, girls. Well done. Dry your heads off, dry your heels off, please. I'd wanted to work for Sir Henry, ever since I came to Newmarket, for obvious reasons. And one day I rode on the hack, and Sir Henry was walking across the heath, and sort of as he loping across the heath as he does, and I sort of managed to. I thought, it's my moment. I've got to talk to him. Anyway, I remember he lit a cigarette and sat on the floor. So I knew at that point I at least had 3 or 4 minutes with him, because he's not going anywhere. And I said, Sir Henry, would there be any chance that I could come and work for you at some stage? And he said, boy, my time having young assistants is over. I'm coming to the end of my career. I've got a professional assistant, and I'm not taking on any, the young guys coming through. I said, no problem. Thank you, sir. And then he said to me, boy, what would you do with Frankel? And I said, excuse me? He said, they all want me to take him to America. And I don't want to take him to America. I don't think he'll handle it. So I said, well, sir, it's very hard for me to comment, but what you've done so far is obviously working. And he said, yeah, I suppose so. But that's who he was. Like he just chatted to people, didn't he? He was just a special man. So in my mind, my window at Warren Place was my door was very firmly shut, and I went off to America and started working there. And I was sat on the pony again in Belmont. It was lashing with rain, I remember, and I was sat there waiting for the horses to come past, and it flicked up on the TDN. Sir Henry Cecil dies of cancer, aged however old he was, and I just remember thinking, God, how sad, for everyone. So some time passed, a few weeks passed, and I was loving my time in America. And my phone rang randomly, completely randomly one afternoon, and it was David Loader. And he said, Jane Cecil needs an assistant trainer. I said, what? Yeah, he said, Jane Cecil. I said, wow, okay, great. Well, let me just think about it. He said, no, you're not thinking about it, George. You're coming back tomorrow. I said, okay. That's actually fine. But I was loving California, I was loving it. But
David Loader might have just saved your life, by the way.
David Loader knew best, and Jane rang me. Cecil, never met her before. Yeah. I flew back, and oh my God, it was a crazy couple of years. It was really depressing to begin with, because we had all these amazing horses, but then we just never knew what was going to stay and what was going to go. And no one ever begrudged people moving their horses. They had them with the greatest trainer of all time. And then obviously Jane was taking over, and it was a lovely thing that they were doing, but quite a lot of business-minded people were moving their horses. So what was always stuck in my mind is the Prince Khaled Abdullah stood firm, and then sent a bunch more horses. Niarchos family stood firm and sent a bunch of horses, and there were a few other people as well. And so we were left with this whittled down team, but it was full of quality and owned by great people that wanted the horses to be there and were fully supportive of us. Again, another big factor is that we brought these wonderful guys in from India and Pakistan on their working visas, and they've just been brilliant. They've just worked so hard, and this Khaled coming in now, I'm not sure why he's got his face covered, but Khaled's been with me since Tompkins. I met Khaled.
Yes, big boss.
Where did we meet?
Me?
Where did you and I meet?
Maybe 18 year Mark Tompkins.
Mark Tompkins.
Yes, boss. You're my boss in the Mark Tompkins.
Your wife has come over?
Yeah, my family here, my wife, everything. My boss give me money too much this one. So many help this one.
What was he like?
Best boss of the world.
What was he like at Mark Tompkins when he was he a tearaway? Did you have to keep him in order?
Yeah.
Khaled's also so enthusiastic about the stable. He always says he's praying for us to have more winners, and he'll say, you're not having enough winners. He'll be very forthright in it.
Yeah.
Is it going to be a good season? Plenty of winners?
Yeah, this year maybe 50 winners.
50 winners.
50 winners.
There we go.
I'd love to know where they're coming from. I'm very grateful to the people that work here, especially my assistant Alex, she's a real amazing professional person, and she's thank God she's stuck with us. Everyone in Newmarket knows Alex as well. They all know that I've got this wonderful assistant, and she actually helped all of those previous names do their MVQ level 3s for their trainers courses. So there's crates of wine turning up, and what's that? Oh, I helped James Ferg do his course. George Bowie. God, that George Bowie, he's the worst of the lot of you. It turns out he's the best.
So the bottom line is that the truth behind all this success in Newmarket is not you lot guys at all. It's Alex. Is that what you're really telling me?
Yeah, no. She's been a great help, and you know, with that team intact, you know.
Yeah.
The future, it's very bright. I don't know. I'm not going to sit here. I've maybe made the mistake in the past and sort of think that we say anything too optimistic, but we're just nowhere near where I'd like to be. You know, we haven't even got onto the ladder where I'd really like to be. This is just the start. We've just got to keep climbing the ladder. We've prioritised a lot on winning races all around the country, as smaller races as possible, basically the weakest races. But I think now with the calibre of horse we have, we need to be winning some prize money as well. So I'd like to absolutely blast out my most amount of annual prize money. You know, a good healthy strike rate that leads to progression, I'm sure. This is Liam Wright, who's my apprentice.
Liam, how are you?
Nice to meet you. How are you?
Yeah, good.
I need to find him a few faster horses to ride, which I will. Which I will.
At the end of this season, what would you like to see written about you?
What would I like to be?
What would be the headlines?
Progression. That is it. That's the big word. It's progression. Or if we can keep progressing at whatever rate, that's success to me. More horses, better quality of stock. That's what we're looking for. And it's not going to happen overnight. It's not going to happen in 1 year, 2 years. But progression each year. That's what we look. We've done the progression and the regression. Now we just want to be climbing the ladder slowly.
If I get a wage rise at Sky this year, and I hope they're listening to this, I'm going to have a horse for you. I've got a great name for it, George the Progressor.
George the Progressor.
It's a great name for a horse.
Yeah, it's a good name. Hopefully we'll be able to live up to that.